Second point was, in terms of the probity team raised concerns on the validity of extensions, and the committee further noted that supporting documents in terms of validity extensions attached only for 5 bidders. Therefore, confirmation had been provided to the probity team, and this matter was resolved. Adequate evidence was provided within this BAC. We were comfortable with that. In their response, Chair, the BAC indicated as well that the tender was still valid. This was only a precautionary mechanism. However, I think what's key is in reference to the preference point system, which will now be utilized in breaking down the award of each. This is now captured on page 353, where that how the preference point system was applied should be included in the report, which is a significant determination on what we should do, Chairperson. There were also concerns raised in the report that do not provide reasons why the BEC negotiated with bid number 36. There was no adequate reasons for whom they considered prices to be high, but have not negotiated with other bidders like bidder number 40. It was very odd for BAC. Why wouldn't you conduct a bid negotiation for all bidders who are subjected to our prospective bidders? Similarly, on 21, that in their response, BEC indicated that they compared the VAT exclusive and inclusive price and benchmark provided by the department and the sourcing strategy as per the BEC report that I indicated earlier on, and noted that the inclusive price for NIST were higher, therefore opted for negotiation on this. They were of the view that bidder 40, for argument's sake, was within the sourcing strategy and was not above the pricing. But now on page 21, on the property report, clearly indicated, Chair, that bidder number 2, without mentioning its name, well, I think I should, that on bidder number 2, Vimtsiri Security and Protection Services, Chair, did not submit 3 years audited financial statements. This is what was indicated in the property report, mind you. However, they were disqualified, indicated the bidder did not have a 5-ton truck, therefore were disqualified. However, the bidder is being recommended for Region 5. That was a major concern that BAC had picked up, BAC had raised, we therefore had to refer the matter back. So in short, on 354, it was therefore agreed that the report be referred back to the BEC for them to consider the following. 1, provide clarity regarding the disqualification from the property team, where the external property team says, but the number 2 of Imperial Security Services must be disqualified, but the BEC in any case moves ahead with the recommendation. Major concern for us, we couldn't agree to this, it was referred back. Obtain a final property report, confirming that all matters have been addressed. Remember, I indicated, Chair, earlier that the BEC verbally indicated to the BAC that this bidder number 2, the matter was deliberated with the probity team, it was effectively dealt with and they were compliant. However, we couldn't rely on that. We needed physical evidence in the form of a property confirmation report as we would normally have. Include in the report how preference point system would be applied. For those reasons, Chairperson, we therefore refer the report back. You'll take note, Chair, that I was back in this sitting. I was chairing this sitting of the BAC on this day, on the 18th of September 2025. Chairperson, I will now go back to paragraph 101 on page 25. I now deal with the outcomes of what transpired at the BAC on the 25th of the final BAC now, which sat considering this matter on the 25th of November 2025. The report was presented by the BEC chairperson, Mr. Victor Hopper, to the Bid Adjudication Committee at its meeting held on the 24th of September 2025. During these deliberations, the BAC took note of further issues that bidder number 32, El Shaddai Security Services, bidder 35, Ngapasha Construction and Project, as well as bidder number 15, 2 Corps and Security Services, at this stage were non-compliant at the time of evaluation. Accordingly, the BAC directed that the provisions of SCM Regulation 43 be applied for these bidders. The committee further noted and accepted that the confirmation that all issues previously raised by the probity team had been satisfactorily addressed, as evidenced by the attached final proactive forensic assurance review addendum report that was provided, giving the BAC assurance that all these matters have been dealt with accordingly. On 105, I conclude on the outcomes of BAC that in light of the above, the BAC finally approved the recommendations of BAC subject to the implementation of Regulation 43. It was further noted that subsequent to verification through the centralized supplier database system, there was confirmation that was received that affected bidders were now tax compliant. The resolution of this sitting, Chair, has been captured as Annex GM 17. With the permission again, Chair, I will request that we move over to bundle number 2, to page number 355, wherein I want to take the committee through GM 17. So in GM 17, final resolution, and maybe we can start at page number 366. This is the final report that was now recommended for approval. It was recommended by myself as the chairperson of the BAC to the accounting officer for approval. It was subsequently approved after validation and confirmation by the accounting officer. So going up, Chair, in terms of the content of this report, BAC had taken note that all issues that had previously been raised have been adequately addressed. One, the issue where a property concern, which was identified, and there was confirmation received from the property team in the form of forensic assurance review report as an addendum attached by the external independent verifier that bidder number 2 was indeed compliant. That provided surety to us at BAC that all processes have been complied. The allocations per region were also clearly identified by the BEC, and a structure and a process flow was given to give direction that a subjective process was avoided, and that a process in terms of allocating bidders to regions in terms of the preferential point system was applied. This then, of course, Chair, led to the final shortcomings that were picked up. The 3 bidders, 32, Al Shaddai Security Services, 35, Gapeshare Construction and Projects, 15, 2 Cops and Security at this stage were non-tax compliant. If they are non-tax compliant by law, we need to give them 7 days. We need to notify them, say you are a prospective bidder, you need to ensure that your tax matters are in place. We'll be giving you a formal 7-day period. This process is duly handled by the accounting officer's office. Confirmations are sent, responses are received from their end, and confirmations are received. This is the process which led to the final award from the Bid Adjudication Committee side, Chair. On that, Chair, I want us to now go back to page 26 on the sworn statement. I will now be proceeding with the probity report, the first one. What I've done now, Chair, I've outlined the process from an end-to-end spectrum, from the bid specification right through to Bid Adjudication Committee, and what the law designates us to perform on each of those functions delegated as they are. On this aspect,
before you go to page 26, where you had stopped was on page 18, you were dealing with a table. And then you set out the process that took place or the summary of events in each committee. And remember, Chair said, I was hoping you will come back to this because you then went to the various annexures. For me, I need you to clarify paragraph 75 because based on what you have told us happened at the 3 BAC meetings, you can then influence the process because you can say, why is this bidder not recommended? Why have you not given reasons for not recommending the one that has the lowest price? This bidder is non-compliant from a tax perspective. Give them time to do this and that. So can you then clarify what you mean by to demonstrate the fact that I could in no way influence the process? Because if you are a chairperson of the BAC and you participate in each of those meetings where you are able to send things back to the BEC, then it means you can influence the process. I would understand if you had framed the paragraph to read as follows. Up to the stage of the BEC, you can't influence the process. But surely when it gets to BAC, you play a part there and you can influence the process to the point where you can even reject the BEC's recommendations.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. Commissioner, I think firstly, we'll just need to understand how BAC is made up. BAC is made up of about 7 individuals. These are all senior managers within the City of Tshwane. They are appointed by the city manager. My role as delegated in terms of the SCM function is to be the chairperson of the Bid Adjudication Committee. So, Chair, influencing a process and directing proceedings in compliance with the relevant laws and regulations, from my perspective, is 2 completely different issues. So if we were to analyze and scrutinize documentations in front of me, applying the rules, laws, and regulations and prescripts of the law, it's not a process of influencing, it's a process of validating, providing assurance, and ascertaining that all key compliance mechanisms have been followed. So, Chair, with respect, I would like to maintain the statement that I do not influence, but I play an oversight in terms of ensuring that all due processes are followed accordingly at the stage of the Bid Adjudication Committee.
Please continue.
Thank you so much, Chair. I was on 105. On 105, I now deal with the probity report and the outcome thereof. Chairperson, Group Audit and Risk is a department within the city which is formally engaged and mandated to conduct a probity audit on the tender under consideration. In executing its mandate, GAR, short for Group Audit and Risk, further appoints an independent external legal firm to provide specialized legal support and to ensure an objective, comprehensive probity review prior to matters being presented to and considered at the bid adjudication level. It's an additional step that we have put on board as a result of the deficiencies that we had picked up in the past in terms of shortcomings on matters of compliance. On page 106, Chair, I deliberate that the primary objective of a probity audit is to provide assurance that the work of the BEC adhere to all applicable supply chain management prescripts, legislative requirements, and governance standards. This includes verifying that evaluation process was fair, transparent, consistent, and compliant, that all bidders recommended for the award fully met the administrative, technical, financial, and statutory requirements of this tender. The probity process further entailed the identification and assessment of potential risks, irregularities, deviations, and the provision for corrective recommendations to ensure full compliance prior to adjudication. In this regard, it is important to note that the probity findings and recommendations carry significant governance weight and are regarded as authoritative. As such, they are required to be fully addressed and resolved and cannot be disregarded or overridden without appropriate justification and due process within the applicable regulatory framework. The detailed probity report has been attached as Annexure GM in the second bundle, GM 18. Again, Chairperson, with your permission, I would love us to go to GM 18. And it is situated on page number 367. On page 367, Chair, 368, you'll take note that Group Audit and Risk makes a submission to the accounting officer. It's a proactive forensic assurance review report into tender TMPD 01, 2024-25 for the Tshwane Metro Police Department. They further take note that the completed final proactive assurance review report form part that will notify your office on the 4th of April, meaning the accounting officer's office was given a go-ahead or an indication that the probity team will be conducting an audit or an assurance exercise before TMPD 01, 2024 is awarded. Attached, of course, is drawn to your attention the final report that has been presented. Within this report now, Chair, if I could explain in short, it's a mirror exercise by a team of external, independent individuals who do exactly what the BAC has done, meaning they obtain all documents that have been provided to them. They look at pre-compliance. They look at administrative compliance. They look at mandatory compliance. They look at the POE that has been provided for the fourth step in terms of physical site assessment. And then they look at the preferential procurement system and the allocation of bidders. That process is conducted from scratch by this independent external law firm in order to validate that all matters and all compliance issues have been dealt with accordingly. So within this, Chair, of course, we'll take note that findings have been raised on 372. These are the findings where the BEC must ensure that they're adequately dealt with before the matter comes to BAC for approval. That process undertakes itself, and if you look at this, Chair, they designate the process that is followed. On page 357, they clearly articulate the mandate and why they're doing this process. It's a critical function to ensure that we avoid incurring additional UIFW in the city. It's a significant step or internal control that was instituted, that wasn't previously there, Chair, at the City of Tshwane. We brought this new internal control on board in order to reduce instances of irregular expenditure that was ballooning to the top as a city. This was a new internal control that was brought on board. The work that is done here is clearly to articulate whether all functions have been performed accordingly. So if you look at the outcomes of this report, Chair, for argument's sake, I want to take you, without going to the details of the report, I have explained in short that it is an evaluation by an external legal independent party who's got no interest whatsoever at the city.